Hello, and welcome to the latest edition of the One Idjit's Thoughts On podcast. I am your editor, Paul Mackey. I'm also your writer, voice talent, producer, and probably every other title I can imagine, because most of the time this is a one-man show. Is it bad that it took this long for me to take note of the fact that both of these series involve newspaper reporters? I was mainly using the connection that they were 43 episodes each to pair them. The only thing more embarrassing would be if I had already taken note of this newspaper connection at some point in the past and forgot I did. I have a lingering suspicion that I might have, but I'm not going back to check. Duluth Homegrown Music Festival 2026 is done at this point. Actually, it's been done for a couple of weeks now, but I wrote this a little while ago. I saw a bunch of different acts, and I think my favorite of all of them was a recently formed group with no online presence that I can point you toward. I saw a cigarette picnic at Uso's coffee shop kicking off Wednesday night's shows. The shop was sweltering, and I heard later there were many people who were trying to get in but prevented entry due to fire code. The band was a trio of female vocalists who passed around an acoustic guitar. The crowd was astonishingly silent during each song, and it was fantastic. My mind is turning toward August already, Dog Days 2026. I haven't firmly decided on what I'm doing this time, which, this being mid-May, could be a problem. I could do trivia, though last year's trivia writing was already well underway by this time. I have some fiction fragments floating around in my brain, but they wouldn't be too connected, though, yes, part of the really big things universe that I don't revisit often enough to really call it a thing. Or I could try a shows marathon like I did a couple of years ago, which felt a bit insane at the time, but could be interesting. Well, in any case, now it's time to get to Seeing Things Season 2, Episode 5, Eyes Too Big for His Stomach, originally aired November 17th, 1982. That day of note, I didn't really see much in terms of world history that day. In Major League Baseball, Dale Murphy of the Atlanta Braves was the winner of the National League MVP, and this was the first of 2 consecutive MVPs for Dale Murphy. Okay, I believe that I'm back on track with domestic box office information this time. These are the numbers for the period ending November 19th, 1982. Number 5 was An Officer and a Gentleman. Number 4 was E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Number 3 was Creepshow. Number 2 was First Blood, and the number 1 film was a re-release of Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, put out for the holiday season in anticipation of the release of the following spring of Return of the Jedi. Then, to the issue of RPM dated November 20th, 1982, on the top 50 singles chart, number 5 was Steppin' Out by Joe Jackson. Number 4, Down Under by Men at Work. Number 3 was ABC with The Look of Love. Number 2 was Up Where We Belong by Joe Cocker and Jennifer Warnes. And the number 1 single was Gloria by Laura Branigan. The top Maple certified single came in at number 18, What You Gonna Do When I'm Gone, parentheses, by Chilliwack. So what is it about? Brief summary. Louis agrees to help Marlon edit his book on local food. Meanwhile, a new restaurant, Pom Pom, poaches the chef of adjacent rival Tom and Jerry's. When Louis and Marlon arrive at Tom and Jerry's, they discover there has been a tragic electrocution accident killing Tom, one of the partners. Further drama ensues at the new restaurant when the paper's editor, Max, is stricken ill by non-culinary toadstool mushrooms, mistakenly being cooked as edible ones. Then, Marlon goes undercover with the chef at the new restaurant, discovering sabotage in the kitchen. And then that chef is found murdered, and Marlon is a suspect. Louis uses his visions and investigative skills, along with some help from Redfern, to suss out Muffy, the wife of Jerry, the surviving partner, as the murderer. All along, Louis and Marge are having financial difficulties, and despite their ongoing separation, both are making efforts to fix the problem. What made him see it? The first vision was at the electrical panel, seeing someone switch the breaker on when Tom was working with the slicer, electrocuting him. Later, after crossing from Tom and Jerry's to the Pom Pom, Louis is once again at the electrical panel and sees the murderer was Kurtz, who had crossed the same half a block of loading areas to do the deed and return back to his new restaurant. Then, when Jerry has Louis try the red wine, he sees a bottle of the stuff was the murder weapon. This last vision seems more like deduction than a psychic vision, in my opinion. My favorite line...
My editor hates my book.
Stop that, okay?
Stop. Come here. She says it's verbose, prolix, diffuse, and redundant.
Sounds like a style is catching.
Who is? This episode has a lot of Marlon in it, and he will be getting a full look soon from ties to another project that I've covered, but this time around I'm looking at guest actor George Buza. I'll go ahead right off the bat and mention that in Men with Brooms, the original 2002 film, George Buza played Stuckmore, the giant who was Lennox's nemesis but turned out to be a curling purist as well. We covered that movie between seasons of Slings and Arrows over on the Ghostlight podcast, and of course I covered the TV series here, though Stuckmore did not appear in the television series. George Buza was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1949, though he moved to Canada early in his career and became a Canadian citizen in 1998. One of George's early roles was as a tribe member in Quest for Fire. In addition to seeing things, he worked a lot in children's shows in the early to mid-80s, including early voice acting in the animated series Star Wars Droids and Star Wars Ewoks. He continued through the 90s in various guest roles on television and doing voice work, shows like Booker and Due South, for example. In 1992, he began what has become one of his signature roles as Hank McCoy, aka Beast, in the original X-Men animated series. He has continued working on guest roles, Christmas movies, and kids shows, many of which are aired on PBS in the US. His most recent credit on IMDb is the currently produced X-Men 97 animated series, continuing to perform as Hank McCoy/Beast. Artifactoids / clearly Canadian. I'd really love to find the block of condos used for Marge and Louie's place, but I feel like it would be looking for a needle in a haystack peering at every row of condos in Toronto. I think it was both an interior and exterior location, though it's possible they were just very good at recreating a believable space on a soundstage. So instead, I figured I'd kill two birds with one chocolatey stone. When Louis tracks down an interview subject, he finds the guy washing dishes at a greasy spoon, and rather prominently on the shelf is a box of Nielsen Mr. Big candy bars. The Mr. Big was first sold in 1979 in Canada, and apparently the bar is also popular in Hungary, Poland, and parts of the United States. The bar is a layer of vanilla wafer cookie covered in caramel peanuts and Rice Crisps and enrobed in milk chocolate, and true to its name, it's almost 8 inches long, roughly double the length of a standard chocolate bar. While it was originally a Nielsen creation, the candy production was sold to Cadbury's in the late 90s. They did attempt marketing the bar nationwide in the US shortly before selling the operations to Cadbury, using Shaquille O'Neal as the celebrity endorser. What worked? I liked the pairing of Louis and Marlon. They played off each other well comedically, and Marlon got a chance to be part of the action instead of just a momentary bystander. Heck, he was even a suspect for the police for a while. The misdirect of the restaurant syndicate was believable, especially with the shady look provided by Guy Dickey, whose performer I was sadly unable to determine. I liked furthering of the Redfern-Louis-Marge love triangle, though I don't really think Redfern is actively participating in that triangle. What didn't work? I don't have too much negative on this episode. I thought the pacing and the plotting were on point, and they even did a good job of shifting back and forth between the A plot of the investigation and the B plot of their money troubles, and even the C plot of the restaurant book. So next time for Seeing Things is Season 2, Episode 6, Evil Eye. But up next in this podcast episode is Press Gang Series 1, Episode 8, How to Make a Killing, Part 2, after a couple of period relative advertisements.
Petro-Canada is people, experienced business people, providing you with top-quality Petro-Canada products and service wherever you go. From coast to coast, Petro-Canada is Canadians, serving you with Canadian energy and putting its earnings back into the search for more oil. Petro-Canada, it's ours.
Have a break. Have a Kit Kat.
So that first ad was vintage 1982 Petro-Canada, emphasizing the Canadianness of their company and juxtaposing scenes of nature while mentioning oil exploration. Do the oil companies still have the nerve to do things like that today? I suspect so. And apologies to the audio-only crowd, the 1989 spot off ITV in the UK was Kit Kat with a pair of roller skating pandas set to all that music, and a photographer who was taking a break from attempting to photograph them while enjoying a Kit Kat. So now we're on to Press Gang Series 1, Episode 8, How to Make a Killing Part 2, originally aired March 6th of 1989. That day of note, I found even less in historic events for this date than in the Seeing Things episode. I suppose I'll just be going into the music charts. So in the Music Week issue dated March 11th, 1989, the singles chart shows number 5 was Leave Me Alone by Michael Jackson, number 4, Stop by Sam Brown, number 3 was Help by Bananarama, number 2, Love Changes Everything by Michael Ball, and number 1 for the week was Jason Donovan singing a Stock Aitken Waterman single, Too Many Broken Hearts, which debuted the previous week at number 9. Over at Billboard's issue, dated March 11th, the modern rock singles chart, number 5 was Nightmares by the Violent Femmes, number 4, The Mayor of Simpleton by XTC, number 3 was Dirty Boulevard by Lou Reed, number 2, Veronica by Elvis Costello, and topping the chart was The Replacements with I'll Be You. So a brief summary of the episode. Kenny reveals the truth he had sussed out at the end of the first episode. Jenny Elliott's brother was high from huffing solvents. After further prodding from Jenny, he realizes the solvents were sold to Jenny's brother by the shop that the chalk outlines were pointing toward. The entire staff of the Junior Gazette bands together to run a sting operation at shops around town. They run an expose of the results in the Junior Gazette and expose the shops who willfully ignored laws preventing solvent sales to minors. My favorite line...
We'll just need to put some spots around the mouths and get them to look dopey. Believe me, Julie, we've got dopey looking licked. Fraz?
Who is? Kelda Holmes plays Sarah Jackson, another member of the core cast of Press Gang. Kelda was born in 1970 or 71, depending on the source. IMDb lists her birth as May of 70 in England. Kelda began as a youth performer at the Anna Scher Theatre in Islington, and moved on to small roles on television before landing Sarah Jackson in Press Gang, which appears to be generally regarded as her most recognizable role. She also appeared on the Radio 4 comedy Second Thoughts, though when the show later moved to television in the 90s, her role was played by Julia Sawalha. Near the end of Press Gang, she worked to further her university education at Ravensbourne University, London, earning a degree in professional broadcasting. In the 90s, she played single roles on both Casualty and The Bill and has appeared sparingly since in various projects. She has, of course, worked extensively in the theater, including experimental works and improvisation. She has worked extensively in commercial voiceover and narration, though I have not found any listing of works that she was involved in. Her most recent IMDb credit is in the 2022 indie film The Wife and Her House Husband. Artifactoids this time is courtesy a shop window behind Jenny Elliott as she reads the Junior Gazette with the expose. There is an advert in the window for the magazine Prima, with which I am unfamiliar. It is a women's magazine featuring everyday living, fashion, beauty, decor, and cuisine. Apparently the Prima title was begun somewhat confusingly by Prisma Press of Germany, published in French and based in Paris. The UK version began publishing in 1986, so it was still relatively new when this episode was produced. By 1991, it was selling in the millions, the first monthly to reach such a figure in the UK. By 2021, though, like many magazines, circulation tapered significantly, in the neighborhood of 195,000 copies. The consolidation of the publishing industry is also part of the Prima story. Prisma Press was owned by Bertelsmann until 2020, when Vivendi bought Prisma Press, then spun the publishing portion of the business as Louis Hachette Group, operating as the magazine arm, primarily in France or Europe. Hachette also publishes books under the name Hachette, and Orion Publishing, and also Little Brown and Company. What worked? I may be a sucker, but I love the stories of a group of youth banding together behind a cause and successfully bringing it to the attention of a community that might otherwise ignore it. What didn't work? Well, I don't know if the repercussions of this episode are going to be felt down the line, but there were loose ends that I noticed. Why did Chrissy from the regular paper try to prevent Kenny from investigating? Was the regular Gazette complicit with the advertisers who were breaking the law? Colin did make a comment about advertising a shop that the paper was also implicating in the same printing. I suppose it was an inspiring story, but it was, admittedly a slight softball. Real street drugs were a problem among teens then, too, but the show decided to do a story on huffing instead. I do understand that a kids' show is not going to necessarily have someone hooked on heroin as the main storyline, so there you go. Next time is Series 1, Episode 9, Both Sides of the Paper. Happy hunting! You've been listening to the One Idjit's Thoughts On podcast, produced by Paul Mackey in association with Nimlas Studios. Any short clips of audio from shows is included under fair use for commentary purposes, and copyright for that content remains with its original copyright holders. The theme song is Too Good by Jack Mangan and is used by his generous permission. One Idjit's Thoughts is produced under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. You can find more episodes of this podcast and many other fine podcasts at nimlas.org. You can contact me by emailing idjitcastpodcast@gmail.com or commenting on episodes at nimlas.org.